have you ever wanted to see what Goku would look like as a teddy bear? Oh, you have? This is Goku as a teddy bear. And you can tell because he has the shirt on. This is it right here. This right here. This one. You see this right here? This is it. This. What is going on, guys? So today we're back with another deep dive, and today we're actually going to be looking into a pretty interesting Pokemon. Since a couple of days ago we just talked about Ferret. Today though, we're looking at a very similar Pokemon in Linoone, who is completely similar in terms of its typing. Pure normal typing, maxing out at this time 1662 with a 0 on attack, 15 on defense, and 14 in stamina. At level 40, I hate to see that because it is going to cost a lot to get there, but it does yield you a 14.99. Now if we actually put Linoone up against the entire Ferocious Cup, sort them by bulk and then by stat product, we actually end up in 14th place for bulk, which is actually better than Ferret was, and then 13th in stat product, which again is actually better than Ferret was. All that actually does stem from our base stats with a 142 on attack, 128 defense, and 186 in stamina. That's actually pretty decent. Kind of the same thing as Ferret though. I'd like to see the attack and defense kind of flop there, but hey, we'll take what we can get. Moving on to our moves, we do have a very similar picture, but quite different in some aspects here. As far as our fast moves go, we do have Shadow Claw and Tackle. Shadow Claw being the outlier here. It is a ghost type move, which is very interesting. 4 on the energy, 3 on the damage. Of course, we do not get a stab bonus. Tackle for only 2 energy per turn. We do get 3 damage per turn at a 3.6. And I gotta say, I like Shadow Claw way better than I like Tackle here. Even though Tackle is going to give us just a tad bit more damage, it reduces the amount of energy that we gain a lot. And I like having a ton of energy because when we get to our charge moves, we're going to need a ton of energy to get to one of these certain charge moves. So Shadow Claw actually makes quite a bit of sense here. Speaking of those charge moves though, we do have Dig, Grass Knot, and Thunder. Now Dig is actually 80 energy to fire for 100 damage at a 1.25. Still the exact same thoughts as in the Ferret video. I hate Dig. It's a horrible ground type representation. But you know, we just kind of got to work with it. Grass Knot for 50 energy, we get 90 damage at a 1.8. And then Thunder for 60 energy, we get 100 damage at a 1.67. So interestingly enough, we do have no stab moves anywhere in terms of our charge moves. So you'll kind of like make sure you keep that in mind because it could be important if you need extra damage on your team. Maybe you don't want to go with Linoone because it's kind of awkward in that sense, but when we actually compare these 3 moves, I initially thought Grass Knot, Thunder, done deal, let's get it done, be out of the way. But Dig actually was really surprising here. Dig actually helps us secure a lot more matchups in certain situations where we would really need some extra coverage. So I initially, like I said, thought Thunder was going to be great, lower energy, decent damage, way better efficiency than Dig, but Dig just really comes in clutch in some of these scenarios. So running through some scenarios, I actually decided that Dig was probably a more sound moveset to go with. So altogether, we're going to stick with Shadow Claw, Dig, and Grass Knot as far as our moveset goes, which actually moves us straight into our shielding scenarios. In that 0 versus 0 up against the entire cup, we actually end up with a 68.8%, which is nice. 2 versus 0, we actually end up with a 97.9, which is actually really impressive. Our 0 versus 2 is a whopping 3.1. So pretty abysmal there. In our 2 versus 2 though, we actually do bring it back up to around a 50%, only clocking in at 49% though. So there's some iffy situations there. I always talk about in the even shield scenarios, we'd like to see at least 50%. And then in that 0 versus 2, I like to see at least double digits, and we just don't even come close to it. Next, moving into the meta section though, we actually have a 68% in the 0 versus 0, so we're sticking pretty strong to that. Our 1 versus 0, we actually get bumped up to a whopping 100%, which is actually amazing. But then it all falls apart at the 0 versus 1 when we whoppingly have a gigantic goose egg, a 0% here, which is just horrible to see. I hate to see that because that means when we're a shield down, we're not gonna win anything. You might as well just stop tapping. Just give up and just move on with your life and accept the loss, because Linoone is just dead. But then in that 1v1 we do bring it back a little bit with a 52% this time. So in the meta we're actually staying above a lot of the criteria, except in that 0 versus 1 where we just kind of fall apart. But we actually do pretty decent. So let's actually pick through that 52% here and look at which Pokemon we actually win and lose up against inside the meta. As far as our wins go, we do have Nidoking, Torkoal, Pachirisu, Donphan with Charm, Vaporeon, Raichu, Raikou, Donphan with Counter, Piloswine, Alolan Marowak, Minun, Granbull, and Lairon there. So those all look pretty nice. In terms of our losses, we do have one tie, which is up against Nidoqueen, interestingly, but we do lose up against Bibarel, Suicune, Alolan Ninetales, Lickitung, Alolan Raticate, Alolan Sandslash, Umbreon, Shelgon, Delcatty, Skuntank, and Furret. The one thing we were comparing ourselves to from the get-go ends up beating us, and it beats us pretty bad. And it's pretty obvious as to why once you think about our moveset versus its typing. Yeah, we're not gonna be doing a whole lot in this scenario. Right out of the gate, we're gonna be resisted damage. So let's actually talk a little bit about the Ripe and the Rotten inside of these matchups. The Pokemon that I think pair really well with Linoone are basically gonna help cover a lot of its weaknesses. So Donphan with Counter is actually a pretty big one, Alolan Marowak and Minun. So Donphan with Counter is actually gonna help us basically cover all of the normal types that we just flat out can't beat because we're running a ghost type fast moves. Lickitung, Alolan Ninetales, not a normal type, but the fighting type will help there. Alolan Sandslash, Lickitung, Delcatty, Furret. I mean, a lot of the normal types we end up having problems with because we just can't do anything. So Donphan with Counter of course helps a lot there. Alolan Marowak also very important here because it does help against not only the ice types that we have some problems with, but it also helps up against just general things that we already can't beat, like the normal types. They also have a big problem getting under our skin, so Alolan Marowak makes a nice counterpart to that. And then we lastly do have Minun, who actually does pretty well up against some of the things that just give us problems like in the water typing, like Bibarel, Suicune, that's pretty much all of them. Next, moving on to the Pokemon that we just avoid like the plague. They are Ebola, you want to stay away. Furret, Delcatty, and Umbreon is actually a pretty big deal here. So Furret and Delcatty are pretty obvious as to why we do pretty bad up against them. Umbreon at first glance isn't really, but we just don't have any answers for it. It ranks pretty low in terms of what just flat out beats us, meaning that it beats us pretty freaking hard, but we just basically don't have any counters for it. We don't have anything, which is, wow, that's pretty much everything that I now think about it. So that is actually going to be it for Linoone, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you're interested in deciding what the next deep dive is going to be, you can jump down in the Discord, vote for your favorite Pokemon, and you'll see it in a few days. That's the schedule that I'm on right now. But anyways, thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thanks so much for watching. As always, remember, I love you, and we'll see you in a couple of days. But until then, see you. Thank you guys so much for watching. Always remember that if you like to like videos, you could do that, but if you don't, you could be that guy. Otherwise, let me know what you have to say down in the comments below about the video. I do highly appreciate you guys watching. If you guys want to support me in any way, there are several links down in the description for Patreon, joining the community here on YouTube, or even just directly PayPal if that's your thing. I greatly appreciate everyone's name that's on screen, as you guys have showed some sort of support outside of just viewing the videos, and I thank you guys. You don't understand from the bottom of my heart. So until our next video, guys, I will catch you then.